INFJ. Introverted, intuitive, feeling, and judging are the 4 best characteristics that describe myself. Now, with that being said, some of the most well-known misconceptions that revolve around INFJs and introverts in general is that we just want to be alone all of the time and that we hate everybody that we see. That's not really the case if you ask me. Whenever we meet somebody for the first time, we base our opinions on them on our first impression. Whenever we see someone that seems shy and kind of quiet, we associate them to be an introvert. And whenever we see somebody that talks to a lot of people and seems to be the life of the party, we often associate them to be an extrovert. And I believe that you really shouldn't judge a person based on your first impressions on them. And I think that getting to know a person more will give you a more better sense of who they really are. And with that being said, I believe that introverts like myself make the world so much more unique because I personally feel that we see things from a whole nother level on a much deeper level, and that we just take things from multiple angles. And based on our tuitions, I believe that it makes things harder to connect with other people because we view things differently from the majority of people. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't change a single aspect of myself. Now, transitioning over to like the main topic of the video of being an INFJ college student pretty much begins as soon as I wake up in the morning. The first thing that I primarily do in the morning is grab my phone to stop the alarm and just basically scroll through social media for a good 15 to 20 minutes to basically avoid and just drift away from my responsibilities for the day ahead. And by doing so, just pretty much gives me some time to escape from the real world for a bit before actually starting out my day at school. And as soon as I'm done getting ready for school, I head over to my car and drive to school for a good 30 to 40 minutes depending on traffic. And during that 30 to 40 minute time window is when I'm in my element. Whenever I'm driving to school, I usually admire a lot of things. I usually admire the scenery that I'm passing through. I usually reflect on my thoughts that I tend to overthink all of the time, considering that a lot of INFJs and introverts like myself overthink every single scenario that comes through their head. And after seeing everything both physically and intuitively through my mind, I usually arrive at school pretty safely. And after finding a parking spot at my school, I usually just sit in my car for a good 5 to 10 minutes if I'm not running late, just to reflect more often on what to prepare myself if I'm ready for that pop quiz for accounting, or whether or not if I should participate in my English class when we are discussing the reading that we were assigned. And once that 5 to 10 minute contemplation window is up is when I usually head out of my car and start walking to campus to my next destination. And while walking on campus, there are a lot of things that I love to do. One of my favorite things to do is just pretty much observe the background. I love walking around campus and just enjoy the nature itself and just enjoy the scenery it has with its trees, with its birds flying around, and just appreciate the simpler things in life. Another thing that I like to do is to observe the people that walk by me, as you can overhear their conversations they have with their friends, whether or not they are close or not, depending on the vibe that they give off with each other. And another thing that I love to do is just reflect on everything that is happening around me right now, as living in the moment is something that really prioritizes my well-being. And after walking around campus for a good amount of time, I usually head over to the same study spot that I usually study at for the past couple semesters, as I believe that working in familiar environments helps you be more engaged in finishing your work, as this spot right here definitely helped me type up some essays really late at night or whenever I'm taking a quiz. And after studying for a good amount of time in my study area, sometimes I would often ponder off my mind and just reflect on a lot of things. Sometimes I would just admire the scenery that's around me, as it is one of the most beautiful buildings on campus so far. And not to mention, I like to see the people that walk by the buildings, like from the stairs and from outside the doors, as sometimes I would wonder what their life stories are like, as INFJs and introverts are usually curious learners in the first place. And not to mention, oftentimes I would procrastinate myself from time to time whenever an assignment gets too endearing and too much to handle on one single setting. And after finishing up my peaceful study session by myself is usually when I head to my next destination, whether it be at the library to either do some more homework, do some more research, print something for another class, or basically just journal, considering that there's a silent section over there. Or I could possibly go to the gym and work out, or I could just head back to my car and go straight back home. But regardless of whatever the next destination is, I know that I'm going to be in great company, and that great company is going to be by myself. And honestly, I believe that INFJs, or pretty much introverts in general, in a college setting can mistake what good company is in college. Whenever you're around good company, I always assumed that good company meant more people, but the more time that I spent by myself studying and just doing a lot of reflecting by myself in the library or at a student union, I realized that the best company for an INFJ college student is with yourself. I would honestly rather go to events with people that I know very well versus going to events with people that I know nothing about, as I feel more comfortable within my small bubble of friends. And without a doubt, I believe that by being by yourself and doing the things that you want to do can honestly put things into a lot of perspective whenever you're alone at school. And being alone, if you ask me, it really doesn't seem that bad. If you ask me, it gives you more solitude time, and it gives you more time to reflect on everything. It gives you more time on the relationships you built, it gives you more time on the goals that you want to achieve in life, and much more. And I'm pretty grateful of the alone time that I've had, and pretty much being an INFJ college student made me realize that the more time that I am alone at school gives me more time to process of who I really am, as not only as a college student, but who I am as a person in general. And honestly, I can really say this from the bottom of my heart in saying that I love being an INFJ college student. I love being an introvert and just being an INFJ in general. Being an INFJ, in my opinion, just means that you're presenting yourself as a happy yet deep soul. And even though that there are times that it can be mentally draining from overthinking a lot and basically from all the stresses that you go through every single day, I believe that it's my character, and I wouldn't honestly trade it in the world. Because if I changed one aspect about myself, especially with my personality, I wouldn't recognize myself in the mirror. Would you recognize yourself if you changed anything? Think about that.